I told you this gate was too narrow.
Now look what happened to my Tesla. You completely demolished the front end. That's a very expensive vehicle.
The sound wasn't just metal twisting. It was the sound of $140,000 worth of pure, unearned arrogance meeting 80,000 pounds of necessary, cold reality. When my vintage Peterbilt dump truck, loaded up with raw Douglas fir, rolled slowly but irrevocably over her pristine, electric performance sedan, the only thing that filled the air was a brief, terrible silence, the kind that follows justice finally catching up to a massive delusion. My name is Elias Thorne, Eli to everyone, 50 years old, and I run a specialty woodworking and custom timber business on my 20 acres, right beside the Stone Creek Estates HOA. For 15 peaceful years, I'd asked nothing of my neighbors but the basic courtesy of respecting my clearly marked property line. That ended when Cassandra Cassie Vane, the self-crowned queen of the cul-de-sac and HOA vice president, decided my heavily secured, private access gate was her personal parking spot. That morning, as the first light touched the pines, I wasn't angry. I was settled and ready. Months of ignored warnings, condescending letters, and a kind of patience only heavy machinery teaches had led to this exact moment. Inevitable and, crucially, completely legal. When the crunch echoed across the valley, I thought, that's the exact sound of consequences, delivered with full documentation. That Peterbilt, with its deep rumble and its honest weight, wasn't just transporting timber. It was carrying the physical manifestation of my property rights and the quiet fury of every blue-collar person dismissed by pure status. Before I tell you how a top-of-the-line electric sedan became a metallic pancake drop, hit that subscribe button if you appreciate seeing karma delivered on heavy-duty axles, and drop a comment below letting me know the worst HOA incident you've ever witnessed. If you told me a year ago that a sleek, silent EV and the woman who drove it would test my self-control more than 3 decades in the timber business, I would have laughed. My world is built on physics, planning, and sweat. I've faced floods, equipment breakdowns that cost more than her whole house, and physical danger in the woods. But nothing prepared me for the quiet, insidious psychological warfare waged by suburban entitlement. My 20 acres were my sanctuary. The access road connecting my gate to the main highway was deeded, maintained, and paid for entirely by me. I had professional signs staked. Private road, commercial access only, no parking. These weren't subtle suggestions. They were factual, legal warnings. For years, no one tested it because they understood the difference between a community rule and a private deed that predated their development. Then came Cassie Vane, the new HOA vice president, who moved into the obscenely large modernist house. A house that seemed to demand the world bend to its aesthetic purity, including silencing the sounds of honest work. The first time I saw her pearl-white Lucid Air, $140,000 of silent, electric smugness and a perfect symbol of her status, it was parked directly in front of my gate. I confronted her as she returned from her hot stone therapy, looking like she'd just completed a difficult charity run and was too exhausted to acknowledge common folk. "You're blocking my private access road," I said, trying to keep the rural grit out of my voice. "I have heavy equipment coming in, trucks that can't maneuver around this. This is a legitimate business entrance." She smiled, a thin, pitying thing, her eyes cold, dismissive. "This is community property, dear. It's an easement. You shouldn't be hoarding access for your industrial operation." She deliberately framed my honest woodworking business as some kind of toxic, disruptive venture. I pointed slowly to the enormous reflective sign, the deed recorded with the county, and the tax parcel numbers. She crossed her arms, her posture radiating condescension. "I'm the HOA vice president. The board has jurisdiction over all surrounding airspace and asphalt, practically. We authorize where parking is suitable. I'll move it when I'm done. Don't be ridiculous, Marcus." The casual misnaming was a subtle but deliberate power play. She insisted on calling me Marcus and walked off, leaving the car there like a trophy planted on contested ground. I called the police, who cited a jurisdictional dispute, a civil matter. Their hands were tied by the vague paper she filed claiming potential HOA oversight over the easement. When she finally returned hours later, smelling faintly of lavender and smugness, I left a firm, clear note detailing the legal status. She peeled it off, tore it up, and let the pieces flutter to the gravel. I threw it away, she chirped, without a trace of remorse. You shouldn't be so territorial, Eli. It's bad neighborly conduct and creates negative energy. The next morning, the bureaucratic harassment began. A fake HOA violation notice under my gate latch, claiming my gate violated accessibility standards and levied a $350 fine. The gall of it, they had zero authority over my land, but the sheer, reckless audacity got under my skin. She repeated this maneuver 2 more times that week, always flashing her invisible HOA badge and weaponizing the phrase shared property. She truly believed repeating a lie, printed on gold embossed paper, made it law. She wasn't fighting me. She was attempting to rezone my reality. I called my lawyer, Tom, outlining the increasing pattern of harassment and documented evidence. If she's issuing fines and fraudulent liens on property not under HOA jurisdiction, that's outright fraud, he confirmed, his voice now serious. Document every lie, Eli. Get professional evidence. Let her dig her own grave deeper, legally speaking. We're building a fortress of paperwork. Patience, for me, is usually the foundation of a logger's skill. But I knew she was dangerously underestimating me, and the cold reckoning was coming. I wasn't going to react emotionally. I was going to react legally, with surgical precision. By the second month, the warfare escalated beyond mere parking. She'd spray-painted my new professional signs with neon pink text, HOA access only, treating my boundaries like a canvas for her ego. The board ignored my photographic evidence, sticking rigidly to their respectful of shared spaces mantra, a phrase that was clearly code for, we don't want to deal with Cassie Vane's tantrums. Logic had departed the field entirely, replaced by HOA inertia. The real breaking point wasn't the petty vandalism or the fraudulent fine. It was when she blocked my gate 3 days in a row, costing me thousands in penalties and driver wages, when a crucial $50,000 specialty timber delivery of black walnut was stalled, risking my long-term contract with a major urban firm. The delay forced me to rent emergency storage, adding another $800 to the tab. When she finally appeared, sipping green juice and looking perfectly unbothered, I confronted her about the $4,000 I had lost. She shrugged, utterly devoid of empathy. Maybe you should have planned your delivery better, Eli. You know how the community feels about heavy diesel trucks. You're simply inconveniencing everyone. The switch flipped inside me. She wasn't seeking parking. She was seeking domination, humiliation, and destruction of my business by proxy. I immediately started the infamous HOA nonsense digital folder, bought commercial-grade cameras, and began documenting every single incident. 50 events, all time-stamped, all proof of calculated malice. Then she took it to the extreme, filing a fraudulent $1,200 lien against my private land using her fabricated HOA authority, attempting to leverage my deed for her personal gain. Tom filed a formal complaint with the county clerk and sent her a firm, documented cease and desist. She responded by accusing me of unauthorized commercial activity, environmental damage, and violating the visual integrity of the community to a local news outlet she knew. She was using the HOA, and now the press, as a personal, petty weapon, spreading outright lies that severely damaged my hard-earned reputation among the few friendly neighbors I had left. The subtle snubs at the local hardware store and the sudden silence from people who used to wave were the silent tolls of her gossip campaign. The absolute gut-wrenching final straw, the one that erased all possibility of a peaceful solution and fueled my ultimate resolve, was the day my 80-year-old mother, frail with severe arthritis, came to visit. Cassie blocked the gate, ignoring my calls and texts for hours. My mother, in too much pain to walk the long gravel path, had to sit trapped in my pickup cab, unable to comfortably exit and stretch, for nearly 4 agonizing hours waiting for Cassie to finish her lengthy spa treatment. Watching my mother, helpless and ingenuine. Discomfort due to this tyrant's insistence on exercising non-existent power was the limit. It wasn't about money or deeds anymore. It was about outright cruelty and a calculated attempt to inflict suffering by proxy. I realized in that moment that kindness and patience were just perceived weaknesses to her. That night, my patience was gone, replaced by a cold, sharp resolve. I called Tom. She won't stop until something forces her, Tom. She's crossed a moral and legal line that requires an absolute response. Then do something that humiliates her back, Eli, he said, his voice quiet but firm. But do it by the book. Build the circumstance so precisely that any fallout is hers and hers alone. Your defense must be impregnable. We need to make it impossible for her to countersue for emotional distress or property damage. The plan was cold, surgical, and absolutely watertight. Certified notice delivered 72 hours in advance to both Cassie Vane and the entire HOA leadership board, specifying the exact time and date of the commercial operation. Professional, highly reflective signs posted with legally verified date, timestamps, positioned to be visible from 100 yards away. Police notified of the legitimate, scheduled commercial operation and the precise time window, requesting they acknowledge the prior warnings. High-resolution cameras rolling, recording every angle in triplicate, one on the gate, one on the road approach, and one dash cam, all time-stamped against the certified notices. A bona fide, non-negotiable $50,000 timber load confirmed on the manifest, proving this was a necessity, not a stunt. I left a final, calm voicemail Sunday night. Cassandra, this is your final warning. Commercial logging traffic begins Monday at 6 o'clock a.m. Move your vehicle now to avoid severe and documented damage. The documentation wasn't just evidence. It was my legal shield, forged out of her own relentless arrogance and disregard for due process. At 5:30 a.m. on Monday, the lucid air was there, perfect, white, and arrogantly still, ignoring every warning, a tiny, defiant flag of entitlement. I drove down to confirm, called her, and got voicemail. I texted the deputy assigned to my case, Officer Miller, on scene before 6. Cameras rolling. Proceeding as planned. Everything was set. I felt strangely peaceful, the adrenaline replaced by professional focus. The Peterbilt, my faithful 379, rolled up at 6:05 a.m., its diesel engine thrumming, the air brakes hissing softly under the weight of 40,000 pounds of timber. The enormous machine looked like a bronze behemoth beside the sleek, delicate car. I hit the air horn twice, a polite, professional warning, the last sound of diplomacy. No response. Stan, my driver, and I proceeded. The truck moved with the slow, deliberate, unstoppable force of physics married to legality. The camera feeds logged every inch, a detached, undeniable record of her choice to commit ongoing trespass. At 6:08 a.m., the Peterbilt's heavy-duty plow made contact with the Lucid's rear, a gentle, firm, inexorable kiss. The costly composite material creaked like a dying whale. Still no response. I gave the command, Stan, maintain a slow push. Keep it steady, no acceleration. Just forward. Then, the sound of a small apocalypse filled the morning air. Not a sudden bang, which implies accident, but a sustained, grinding tear. Metal screeching against metal, carbon fiber shattering, battery housing protesting with an unsettling hiss, and the subtle, horrifying sound of the vehicle's structural integrity giving way. The Peterbilt's momentum was relentless. The rear of the Lucid Air folded inward, compressing like an accordion under immense, lawful pressure, its front wheels lifting momentarily as it was shunted sideways, off the property line and onto the shoulder. Cassandra Vane came sprinting from the clubhouse, screaming in silk pajamas, pure animal panic overriding all decorum. She slid to a stop, her expensive shoes kicking up gravel. You can't do this. You'll pay for this. You destroyed my property, she shrieked, pointing at the grotesque shape the Lucid had become. I climbed down from the massive machine, hands visible, walking calmly to the wreckage. I spoke loud enough for the cameras, the growing crowd of stunned neighbors filming from their porches, and the deputy's cruiser that had just arrived. Cassandra, I said, my voice cold, factual. You were warned. Certified letter. Posted signs. Verbal notice, multiple times. We notified the sheriff's office this morning. You chose to park on private property against explicit commercial traffic warnings. This is the calculated, documented result of your choice to violate my property rights. The deputy, Officer Miller, reviewed my evidence on his tablet, scrolling through the time-stamped images of the signs and the certified mail receipts. Mr. Thorne, he confirmed, putting away his notebook. We documented the warnings. She was notified. This will be recorded as a civil incident resulting from trespass. No criminal charges are pending against the logging company. That simple sentence was the second crushing blow to her entitlement, the legal equivalent of the 80,000-pound truck. Her husband, Doug, arrived moments later, shocked and pale, clutching his phone. "Brenda, what did you do?" She sobbed, incoherent, her whole social identity crumbling. "I didn't think he'd actually." That's the problem. I cut in, my voice clear and captured perfectly on the audio feed. "You didn't think. You assumed your title trumped the law." The cameras caught that line, and it went viral instantly. The HOA board, terrified of their own liability after seeing the legal documentation, called an emergency meeting. Cassie's insurance adjuster denied her claim almost immediately. "Ma'am, this falls under willful negligence. You were warned repeatedly about the commercial activity and the status of the private road." Her own high-powered lawyer reviewed the evidence and told her point blank she had no legal standing and risked countersuit for harassment and fraud. Her world collapsed spectacularly. The HOA publicly revealed her fake fines, the fraudulent lien attempts, and the funds she'd pocketed, voting her out permanently within 48 hours. Doug filed for separation that same week, citing an irreconcilable difference in judgment and values. Justice had been delivered. The quiet returned to Stone Creek Estates. I cleaned the gravel, repainted the gate posts, and installed a new, heavy-duty latch. I didn't gloat, but I did hang a new sign, custom-made in brushed bronze: "Private property. Respect gets you further than arrogance." The final, most satisfying twist came 2 weeks later, a letter from Heritage Mutual Insurance. It read, "Dear Mr. Thorne, upon final review of the evidence, we find no liability on your part. The claim is hereby denied, and the claim against Ms. Vane is closed. She is found fully liable for all losses, including towing and cleanup costs due to owner negligence. She had to bear the full $140,000 cost, plus the fees. She stopped showing her face and quietly put her house up for sale." Justice had been delivered, not by revenge, but by a cold, hard paper trail. I look out over my land now, the gate strong. People will test you. Cassie Vane thought her title and luxury car made her untouchable. But law, documentation, and self-worth weigh more than any badge or brand. I didn't crush her car out of anger. I crushed the ingrained arrogance that said she could disregard consequences and the property rights of others. Sometimes, consequences just happen to weigh 80,000 pounds. It makes you wonder, though, did I go too far? Was that destruction, that spectacle, necessary? Or is that the only uncompromising language some, who believe they are above the rules, ever truly understand? Is it better to endure months of targeted, petty abuse, or to respond with absolute, documented finality? If you've ever dealt with an HOA nightmare, tell me your side of the story. When faced with someone who abuses power, what is the moral way to fight back? And don't forget to subscribe, because the next time justice rolls through the neighborhood, you'll want to see how the ledger balances.